By Sri Lanka's best internet package for online learning and online working with many amazing offers. Call 1212 for more information. Sri Lanka Telecom.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, the usual suspects. 5 fundamental rights petitions filed today by civil society figures challenging the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. Trading on toes, former IGP Pujit Jayasundara exposes pressure to soft pedal extremism investigations from ex-President Sirisena. True to your charter, President Gotabaya called on UN to put a stop to politically motivated witch hunts against member states.
Political witch hunts through questionable motives against member states need to be halted.
Under the radar, CID reveals 13 million rupee donation from banned Qatari organization to Hijaz Hizbullah Save the Pearl organization. All this and much more coming up on this Wednesday, the 23rd of September 2020.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
නව සන්ලයිට් සකුරා දැන් දිකුකල් පවතින සකුරා මල් සුවඳින්.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Shanella Fernando in your top stories for tonight. State Minister of Internal Security Chamal Rajapaksa states that police officers will be deployed for MP security teams solely for security purposes, insisting that the officers cannot be used to guard personal belongings of parliamentarians. He made this statement in response to a question raised by Samagi Janabalawege MP Buddhika Patirana regarding the reduction of security personnel. Meanwhile, an adjournment debate on the Election Commission commenced today, during which views on the 20th Amendment were also expressed.
විශ්වර සංශෝධන තුළ මැතිවරණ කොමිසමේ තිබෙන ඝනපූර්ණයේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් වෙනසක් කිරීමේ අවශ්‍යතාවය තියෙනවා. සමාජිකයන් ගන්න 5ක් දක්වා වැඩි කරලා ඝනපූර්ණයේ 3ක් දක්වා ඒ තිබෙන තත්ත්වය නිර්මාණය කිරීමේ අත්‍යවශ්‍යතාවයක් තිබෙනවා. මේ ස්වාධීන කමිෂන් සංකල්පය ගෙනාවේ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය නෙවෙයි චන්ද්‍රිකා මැතිණිය. දැන් මෙතුමාලා 14 ජාද්‍ය දුන්නා. 18 වෙනි සංශෝධනය ගෙනහැල්ලා ඒක නැති කරන්නත් ජාද්‍ය දුන්නා. ඊට පස්සේ අපි 19 ගෙනාවා. ඒකටත් ජාද්‍ය දුන්නා. දැන් ආයෙත් 20 ඒක නැති කරන්න හදනවා. අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමත් පබේ උසස් රාජ්‍ය ආයතනයත් පබේ බවට පත් කරනවා. ඉතින් මේක ජාත්‍යන්තර වශයෙන් අපිට බලපානවා.
2018 මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු විසුරුවාම ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණයේ නඩු 14ක් ගොනු වුණා. ඒකෙන් ප්‍රථම නඩුව ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම දැම්මේ වෙන කවුරුත් නෙමේ මැතිවරණ කොමිසමේ සිටින කූල් කියන පුද්ගලයා. ඒතකොට ඒක ඊටාම විහිළුවක්. ඒතකොට ඔහු ද්විත්ව පුරවැසියෙක්. එහෙම නම් ද්විත්ව පුරවැසිකම තියෙන එකේට මහා මැතිවරණට ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්න බැරි නම් මහා මැතිවරණ හසුරන පුද්ගලයෙක්ට කොහොමද ද්විත්ව පුරවැසියෙක් වෙන්න බලන්න. මේක තමයි මේ ව්‍යවස්ථා සභාවෙන් කරපු ප්‍රෝඩා. මේ වගේ මැතිවරණ කොමිසමේ තියෙන මේ වගේ පක්ෂග්‍රාහී NGO නඩවල ඉන්න පුද්ගලයන් ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම අපිට ඉවත් කරන්න පුළුවන් 20 වෙනි සංශෝධනය ගෙනවත් පමණයි.
මැතිවරණ ඉතිහාසයේ අවම ප්‍රචණ්ඩත්වයක් අවම දූෂණයක් වෙච්ච මැතිවරණ තුන තමයි මේ මැතිවරණ තුන. එහෙමනම් ඇයි මේ මැතිවරණ කොමිසම අවලංගු කරලා නැවත අපි 20 වෙනි සංශෝධනය අර පරණ තත්ත්වයට යන්නේ.
20 වෙනි සංශෝධනය ගෙනල්ලා වහාම අපි ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනයකට නැත්නම් සමස්ත ආණ්ඩුක්‍රමයක් හදන්න අපි පෙළ ගැහියුත්. නැතුව මේකට මේ 19 හොඳ කෑලි තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ඒවා තියාගන්න ඕනේ. 20 නරක කෑලි තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ඒක අයින් කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා එහෙම කරන්න බෑ.
කෝප් කමිටුවේ මෙතෙක් ආපු සම්ප්‍රදාය තමයි ඒක මාධ්‍යයට විවෘත කරලා තියෙනවා. දැන් ඒක ඩිලේ එකකට යන්න වගේ එකක් නිකන් දැනෙනවා එහෙම එකක්. ඉතින් එහෙම කරන්න එපා.
මේක පහුගිය වකවානුවේ විපක්ෂයට කියලා සුනිල් හඳුනගත්ත මන්තුමා ආණ්ඩුවේ හිටියේ. ඔක්කොම එකට ඇහුවේ නඩුව විභාග කරේ අර කමිටුව හැදුවේ. එතකොට විපක්ෂය නෙමෙයි කටයුතු කරේ ආණ්ඩුවේ කටයුතු කරේ. පසුගිය ආණ්ඩුවේ සභානායකයන්ට අප යෝජනාවක් ගෙනාවා කෝපා මාධ්‍යයට විවෘත කරන්න කියලා. ඒක පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ගණමතු වුණා.
කිරියල් ඇමතුමා කිව්වා එතුමා සභානායකවරයා හැටියට ඉන්න කාලෙදි තමයි මේ තීන්දුව ගත්තේ කියලා. මේ තීන්දුව අපිත් ගත්තේ බිස්නස් කමිටුව ඔබතුමා වාඩිලා හිටපු මේක තමයි අපි මේක සලකා බලන තීන්දුව කෙරුවේ. ඒක ඔබතුමාට අමතක වෙලා.
මේ රටේ රාජ්‍ය නිලධාරීන් සහ විවිධ තනතුරු වල හිටපු අයගේ ආත්ම ගෞරවය රැකෙන විදිහට තමයි අපි මේ තීන්දුව අරන් තියෙන්නේ. බොරු මාධ්‍ය සංදර්ශන කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ මේ ආණ්ඩුව. තමුන්නාන්සේ තමයි මාධ්‍ය සංදර්ශන කරුවේ. ඒ ඉතිහාසය 3-2 බලයක් දීලා මේ රටේ ජනතාව එක ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරුවා. ඒ නිසා ඒක ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරපු එක අපි නැවත වාරයක් මේක ආරම්භ කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
මේ තීන්දුව ගන්න ඕනේ ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයේ සංවිධායක නෙමෙයි. තීන්දුව ගන්න
කරන්නනේ කෝප් කමිටුවේ සභාපතිතුමා. මේ බලපෑමක් කරන්නේ. මේ ගේම ගහන්න යන්නේ. මාධ්‍යට සංදර්ශනයක් ඉදිරිපත් කරන ඔබතුමාගේ සහ මේ රටේ ජනතාවගේ මුදල් සහ කාලය වැය කරන්නේ නැතුව පක්ෂ නායක රැස්වීම ඉන්නයි තීන්දුවක් ගත්තම කරු කතානායකතුමනි ඒක අපි ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න.
ව්‍යාපාර බිස්නස් කමිටිය එක තීරණයක් ගත්තයි කිව්වා මේ කෝපා මාධ්‍ය ආවරණය සීමා කිරීම එහෙම තීරණයක් ගත්තේ නැහැ. අහන්න මේ නිලධාරිගේ
ඒ කමිටුවේ කතා කරලා තීන්දුවක් ගන්න.
පෞද්ගලික දවස්වල මාධ්‍ය වාර්තා පනවන ආරක්ෂක ලේකම්තුමාට ජනාධිපතිතුමාට පවා හිරේ ඉන්න භයානක අපරාධකාරයෝ මේ තර්ජනය කරනවා. හිරේ හිටියත් අපිට පුළුවන් උඹලව මරන්න කියලා. දැන් එහෙම තත්ත්වයක් යටතේ මේවට අරගල කරන മന്ത്രിවරුන්ගේ ඇමති ආරක්ෂක නිලධාරීන් අඩු කරලා තියෙනවා.
මම ඒක කතා කරන්නම් මේ පොලිස් පයිතුමත් එක්ක.
අරු කතානායකතුමනි පොලිස් නිලධාරීන් ඉන්නේ පොලිස් රාජකාරී කරන්නේ. දැන් අද മന്ത്രിවරුන් සඳහා සහ අනිකුත් අය සඳහා පොලිසියේ ඉන්නේ 85000යි. එයින් 38000ක්ම දීලා තියෙන ඒ සඳහා. මහ ජනතාව කෙරෙහි විශ්වාසයක් නැතිනම් තමයි පොලිසිය ඉල්ලන්නේ. නැත්නම් පොලිසිය ඉල්ලන්නේ ෆයිල් උසා යන්නද? පොලිසිය දෙන්න ෆයිල් උසා යන්න බෑග් උසා යන්න. වැඩි නෑ දෙන්න. දැන් 4 දෙනෙක් දීපයක දෙන්නෙක් කරලා තියෙනවා. සමහර පොලිස් ඩිවිෂන්ස් වල කොට්ටාශවල පොලිස් රාජකාරී කරන්න පොලිසිය නිලධාරීන් නැහැ. නැත්නම් තමුන්නාන්සලාට දෙන්නම් Tamanට කැමති කෙනෙක් අරවට මේවට පාවිච්චි කරන්න.
දැන් මේනකොට හිටපු මහා ඇමතිවරුන් ඔවුන් පරාජිතයි. ඔවුන්ට තනතුරු නැහැ. ඒ විශාල පිරිසකට සියලු දෙනාට ආරක්ෂක නිලධාරීන් 6-7 දෙනා ලබා දීලා තියෙනවා. හිටපු අගමැතිවරයාට 200ක් ඉන්නවා. අපේ සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස විපක්ෂ නායකතුමාගේ 70 ගානෙන් තවත් අඩු කරන්න කියලා නියෝගය ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. මේක කොයිතරම් සාධාරණද කොයිතරම් අසාධාරණද?
Samagi Janabalawegaya General Secretary MP Ranjith Madhuma Bandara today filed a fundamental rights petition in the Supreme Court challenging the legality of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. This brings the total number to 5 FR petitions filed since the draft bill was tabled in Parliament by Justice Minister Ali Sabri yesterday.
Following the tabling of the draft bill of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution in Parliament yesterday, the Samagi Janabalawegaya has filed a petition before the Supreme Court challenging its constitutionality. The petition was filed today by Party General Secretary MP Ranjith Madhuma Bandara. The Attorney General has been named the respondent in the petition. The petition claims that specific clauses in the 20th Amendment Bill proposed by the government violate a number of fundamental rights and other provisions guaranteed by the current Constitution. Therefore, the petitioner seeks a court decision declaring that the 20th Amendment Bill requires a parliamentary majority vote of 2/3 and a public referendum for it to be passed. Meanwhile, 5 more petitions were filed in the Supreme Court challenging the 20th Amendment. The petitions have been filed by TNA leader R. Sambandhan, Attorney-at-Law Indika Gallage, Anil Kariwasam, Secretary of the Sri Lanka Transparency Front Nagananda Kodidwakku and the Centre for Policy Alternatives. Following the tabling of the draft bill in Parliament, any citizen has the right to file a petition in court challenging it within 7 days.
ඒ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවයි ජනාධිපතිවරයා අතර ඇතිවෙච්ච ඒ බලතුලනය සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම විනාශ වෙලා පාර්ලිමේන්තුව තනි පුද්ගලයෙක්ගේ පාලනයට යටත් වෙලා කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය රූකඩ මඩුවක් බවට පරිවර්තනය වෙලා තිබිච්ච සාධාරණ වූ තත්ත්වයන් සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම විනාශ වීමේ ස්වරූපයක් මෙතන පහළ වෙලා තියෙනවා.
19න් සිද්ධ වුණේ ඒ අය විනාශ වෙච්ච. අපි 19 නිසා විනාශ වෙන සූදානම් අපි ඒක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම සංශෝධනය.
ජනමතය දීලා තියෙනවා ජනාධිපතිතුමාට වැඩ කරන්න. නීති රීති හදාගන්න. ඉතින් ජනාධිපතිතුමා කවදාවත් ඒ ජනමතය අවභාවිතා කරන්නේ නැහැ.
ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨ අධිකරණයට මූලික පෙස්සමක් ඉදිරිපත් කරලා අපි ඒ මගින් අධිකරණයෙන් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා සහනයක් ඒ ජනතාවගේ අයිතිවාසිකම් සහ ජනතාව අපේක්ෂා කරපු ඒ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී මුහුණුවර ආරක්ෂා කරලා දෙන්න කියන ඉල්ලීම තමයි අපි ඒ මගින් කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
අධිකරණයට ගිහිල්ලා ඇත්තටම විමසන්න තිබෙන කරුණු ප්‍රමාණය ඉතා අඩුයි. මොකද අධිකරණයට මේකේ හොඳ නරක කියන්න බෑ. අධිකරණයට එහෙම බලයක් දීලා නැහැ.
මෛත්‍රී රනිල් ආණ්ඩුවට අර බොන්ඩ් නිසා වෙච්ච දේ මේ ආණ්ඩුව රාජපක්ෂ ආණ්ඩුවට මේ 20 වෙනි සංසද නිසා අනිවාර්යෙන් වෙනවා කියලා එයත් යනවා කියලා කියන්නකෝ.
පරාජය කරනවා කියලා මට කියන්න බෑ. නමුත් අපි විරුද්ධත්වය ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
President's Counsel Manohara De Silva states that the government should take steps to repeal the 19th Amendment as well as the 16th and 13th Amendments to the Constitution as they contain malicious provisions far dangerous than the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. He made this remark addressing a seminar held in Colombo today on the 20th Amendment to the Constitution attended by several guests including State Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Government, Rear Admiral Dr. Sarath Veerasekara.
අපේ රටේ දේශපාලකයෝ එක එක කණ්ඩායම් සතුටු කරන්න ගිහිල්ලා ඒ අනුව අපේ ව්‍යවස්ථා අනත් කෙටුම්පත් හදන්න ගිහිල්ලා අපේ රට සිංහලයට අහිමි වෙන තැන වැඩි ඈතක නැහැ. මම හිතන්නේ ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ ජනාධිපතිතුමාට අපේ බලාපොරොත්තුවක් තියෙනවා. තුමා මගින් අපේ රටේ මේ ස්වාධීනත්වය අයිතිය
ආරක්ෂාවේ කියලා.
අපි දන්නවා විග්නේෂන් කරපු දේවල් විග්නේෂන් තමයි කියන්නේ සිංහලයාට උතුරේ ජීවත් වෙන්න අයිතියක් නැහැ. ඔහුගේ කාලය තුලදී යෝජනා 27ක් සම්මත කරගෙන තියෙනවා පළාත් සභාවේ 27 resolution.
විත්ත භාවයේ දෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා කියන එක යෝජනාවක් හැටියට ඇවිදිලා සම්මත කළොත් ආයෙත් බැංකු කඩන්න හොරෙක් එන්න පුළුවන් සිංගප්පූරුවෙන්. එහෙනම් විත්ත භාවය මොකෙන් ආවත් එන්න ඕන එකක් නෙමෙයි. ගලයන් ඉලක්ක කරගෙන විත්ත භාවයේ තියෙන නීති රීති ලිහිල් කළ යුතු නෑ රටක් හැටියට ගත්තාම.
1988 දී මේ ව්‍යවස්ථාවට ගෙනාපු 16 වන ආණ්ඩු ක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනයෙන් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ රාජ්‍ය භාෂාව සිංහල කියලා එහි අභ්‍යන්තරය සංශෝධනය කළා. රටේ පරිපාලන භාෂාව සිංහල වන්නේ උතුරු නැගෙනහිර පළාත් හැර සෙසු පළාත් වලයි කියලා අපේ ආණ්ඩු ක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවට ඇතුළත් කරා 1988 දී. 19 තරම්ම නරක ව්‍යවස්ථා ප්‍රතිපාදන 13 16 තියෙනවා. මම කියනවා ඊට වඩා භයානකයි කියලා.
Former IGP Pujit Jayasundara detailed to the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the Easter Sunday attacks the way influence was brought to bear upon the Independent Police Commission by former President Maithripala Sirisena. Jayasundara also told the Commission that what led to the Easter Sunday attacks was the politically based decision by the President at the time to soft pedal any investigations into extremism in the country in order to create issues with Muslim ministers in the government.
Former IGP Pujit Jayasundara, who was the IGP at the time of the Easter attacks, testified before the Presidential Commission for the second day today. The Commission first inquired as to whether he had taken advice from the Prime Minister without consulting the President at any time while holding the post of IGP. He replied, "No, I never did that. But politically, after events like the 52-day government in October 2018, when the relationship between the President and the Prime Minister broke down, it was very difficult for me to balance them. However, I had to inform the Police Commission about the transfers of senior officers. However, some transfers made on their recommendations had to be stopped." When asked by the Commission whether the President and the Prime Minister had given different instructions on the same issue, Jayasundara said that in such cases, he went with the President's orders. He was then asked whether this meant that influence had been brought to bear on the Independent Police Commission's activities, despite it having been empowered by the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. He responded such influence was there as far back as 2018. The recommendations of the Police Commission could not be implemented in the transfer of posts such as senior DIGs and divisional officers. They were stopped. At this point, when the Court of Appeal judge at the Commission asked him who stopped them, Jayasundara replied, "The President." The former IGP then went on to say, "The National Security Council was scheduled to be held on October 23, 2018, but I was not informed about it until the afternoon. Around 4:30 p.m, I called the then Defence Secretary Kapila Vaidyaratne and asked, 'Sir, is there a Security Council meeting today? I have not been informed.' Then Kapila Vaidyaratne told me that, 'Pujit, I could not tell you, but now because you asked, I will. The President told me not to call you.' He went on to say, 'I was very embarrassed when I was told not to come for the Security Council meeting because I had no way of knowing anything the Security Council was discussing. I had not received anything in writing from the Security Council.' Later, other police officers were invited to the Security Council meeting instead of the senior police officer immediately below me. The judge of the Court of Appeal, a member of the Presidential Commission, questioned whether the incident was the beginning of a catastrophe like the Easter attack. He replied, "No, I cannot say that. The whole process had deteriorated due to the failure to take action on the impact of international extremist activities in the country from 2012 to 2013. But this incident caused me problems in decision making due to not being able to receive information." The member of the Presidential Commission, the Court of Appeal judge, then asked the witness, "Are there any specific incidents that stem from you not being summoned to the Security Council? Is there anything that you have not stated in public so far?" He replied, "One incident is the transfer of IP Nishantha Silva. In addition to the misunderstandings that had taken place from the beginning, there were incorrect predictions made based on misinformation of certain people. Everyone's wrongdoings were blamed on me. A number of investigations were led by Nishantha Silva of the CID. One is the incident involving former Chief of Defence Staff Ravinda Vijay Gunaratne. Discussions were held at the National Security Council that this officer was taking revenge on certain people. Then President Maithripala Sirisena directly called for the removal of Inspector Nishantha Silva. At the time the President was leaving the country, he had told the Secretary of Defence, "Somehow this has to happen." The Secretary of Defence told me, "There is nothing I can do." Then I informed the Police Commission and I did it even though I did not agree with it. He added, "About 2 days later, the President returned to the island. I went to the airport to check on security there. I then received a call from the president where he asked me where I was. I told him I was at the airport. He then asked me who transferred Nishanta Silva. I told him that it was me. He then asked me who asked me to do that. To which I said, "Sir, you repeatedly told me to transfer him." He then replied that the defense secretary told him the same thing. He then denied saying that and said that he would ask his secretary. The Court of Appeal judge then asked the witness whether he knew why it was that he changed the original order. The former IGP responded, "I think he came under political pressure. Sajid Premadasa and Mahinda Amaravira had spoken to the president and asked him questions about it. He was under a lot of pressure." Continuing, he added, "The Police Terrorist Investigation Division was investigating Islamic extremism at the time. I had introduced the then director SSP Nalaka de Silva to the president. He then accompanied me to meet the president and made some presentations on the spread of Islamic extremism in the world and in Sri Lanka at the time. The president then told us that this was a very sensitive issue and for us to tread carefully. The president said, 'These things are only happening in Syria.' He told us they are only conducting lectures here. This is the Muslim issue. There are Muslim ministers in the government. They can upset the government, so do it very carefully." He went on to state, later when the Security Council met, no focus was given to Islamic extremism. The president said that the police should not conduct open investigations into this matter. Nilantha Jawardhan of the State Intelligence Service should instead monitor this. Nilantha will do it. Meanwhile, former President Maithripala Sirisena arrived at the Presidential Commission this afternoon to hear former IGP Pujit Jasundara testify. The former president left the commission at around 4:30 p.m. after listening to the ex-IGP's testimony for about 30 minutes. The commission also issued notice to the former president and his private secretary to appear before the Presidential Commission in person tomorrow morning. This was in connection to the press release issued by the former president's private secretary, labelling former Defence Secretary Hemosiri Fernando's testimony as false. Further, the Presidential Commission also summoned the 3 auxiliary bishops of the Archdiocese of Colombo tomorrow in connection with the statement issued by them rejecting the statement made by MP Harin Fernando, implying that the Cardinal may have known about the Easter attacks beforehand.
The CID today told the Colombo Fort Magistrate that the organisation named Save the Pearl, run by detained lawyer Hijaz Hizbullah, received 13 million rupees from a banned Qatari organisation for use in spreading extremist ideology. The CID also informed court that the investigations into Hizbullah's aiding and abetting of Easter Sunday bomber Insaf Ahmed has been rather completed, and a report presented to the Attorney General on the 17th of this month.
The Criminal Investigation Department today reported to the Colombo Fort Magistrate with regards to investigations into lawyer Hijaz Hizbullah on charges of aiding and abetting the Easter Sunday attackers. The CID informed court that the foundation he runs, Save the Pearl, had received 13 million rupees from an illegal organisation in Qatar to fund terrorist activities. The CID officers stated that from investigations into the organization's bank accounts, it has been confirmed that funds had been received in the last few years and that investigations are ongoing to determine what terrorist activities the money was used for. They told the court that investigations are being carried out under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The CID also told the court that the psychological report ordered by the investigating officers regarding a book titled Nama Rasam found in a madrasa school run by the organization in Puttalam has not been received as yet. The magistrate then directed the CID to submit both the new Rasam book and its singular version to a team of expert psychologists for a full report to be compiled on whether the children at the madrasa were being guided towards extremism through the book. The next hearing of the case has been set for the 7th of October. Meanwhile, the CID also informed court today that investigations into Attorney-at-Law Hijaz Hizbullah on charges of aiding and abetting Easter Sunday bomber Mohammad Ibrahim Insaf Ahmad has been completed and presented to the Attorney General on the 17th of this month. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court today ordered that the petition filed by Hizbullah seeking to declare his arrest and detention illegal be reconsidered on November 23rd. Further, the CID also informed the Colombo Magistrates Court that investigations into former Defence Secretary Hemosiri Fernando and former IGP Pujit Jasundara on charges of criminal misconduct for failing to prevent the Easter Sunday attacks, despite receiving sufficient intelligence, has been completed. They told court that the report has been submitted to the Attorney General for his advice on further action to be taken against the suspects.
More news on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
Enjoy a very smooth shave with the Bic Easy 2 razor. Bic Easy 2.
Welcome back. In more news, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that the motives of the political witch hunts against UN member states should come to an end. Furthermore, he also stated that Sri Lanka is committed to following a neutral foreign policy. He made these comments when he addressed a leaders' summit at the 75th session of the United Nations via video link this morning. The Leaders' Summit of the 75th session of the United Nations commenced at 9 p.m. local time yesterday at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The sessions commenced following address by the President of the United Nations General Assembly Volkan Bozkır and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa addressed the Assembly via video technology at around 4:45 a.m. today.
As a country proud of her long-standing democratic traditions, the government of Sri Lanka has witnessed 2 free and fair elections where I, as the President, and my government were elected with overwhelming majorities. The resounding mandates received at both the presidential and parliamentary elections have enabled the formation of a strong government dedicated to building a prosperous nation. At a time when even the most powerful countries in the world were facing substantial challenges in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, Sri Lanka was able to successfully face the challenge thanks to a well-coordinated, synchronized mechanism of preventive measures. We managed to contain its spread. These measures ensured the right to life of all Sri Lankans and all foreign nationals who were trapped during restrictions on air travel, regardless of their ethnic, religious, or social background. The World Travel and Tourism Council has recently stamped Sri Lanka as a safe destination for tourists. At a time when the United Nations reaches its 75th year, it is a great opportunity to self-assess in order to ensure the sustainability and the credibility of the organization. Political witch hunts through questionable motives against member states need to be halted. Sri Lanka is committed to follow a neutral foreign policy with no affections to any particular country or power bloc. Geopolitically, too, Indian Ocean receives the focus of the entire world. Given this situation, powerful countries and nations should provide their support and assistance to maintain the neutrality of the Indian Ocean. In conclusion, I wish to reiterate the importance of the United Nations Charter, which enshrines the protection of sovereignty, territorial integrity of states, and non-interference in their domestic affairs.
The Cabinet of Ministers have announced a host of decisions taken at the meeting held yesterday. Chief among them are the drafting of a new bill to counter the growing threat of online child pornography, the conducting of a new census next year, and approval for the commencement of the planning stages of 400 new middle-income housing units at Elliott Place, Boralla.
The Cabinet of Ministers have announced the conducting of a census from January to May 2021 due to the planning process of the population housing census being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic situation. The census would reveal population data, its geographical spread, its ethnic spread, and community scientific and social features, as well as quality and updated data and information at the Gramanidedari level. Further, the Cabinet Subcommittee on the Cost of Living has approved decisions tabled by the Minister of Trade to ensure the continuous supply of food items to the local market sans any shortages. They include paying more attention to goods severely affected by the cost of living, maintenance of a fixed local policy and limitation of imports only to essentials in order to encourage local farmers to meet the demand, and the preparation of a methodology that imposes proper prices for consumer benefit. In addition, the Cabinet has also decided to launch the establishment of a land data infrastructure and land information services system, subject to recommendations by the Information and Communication Technology Agency, with an investment of $60.33 million under the Sri Lanka-Korea diplomatic program. Also announced was the decision to grant tax relief for large-scale water supply and sewage management projects implemented by the National Water Supply and Drainage Board by labelling them as special projects. Further, due to inadequacies within the Obscene Publications Ordinance to meet the growing threat of child pornography online, the Information and Communication Technology Agency and the Sri Lanka Computer Emergency Readiness Team have prepared a document containing information for the drafting of a new bill on the advice of the Attorney General. Accordingly, following Cabinet approval, the legal draftsman has been advised to proceed with the preparation of the new bill. The Cabinet has also decided to proceed with the planning of the Elliott Place housing project, entailing the construction of 400 housing units for middle-income earners in the public and private sector at a cost of 9.37 billion rupees. Also announced was the decision to facilitate non-residents to invest in government securities in order to encourage the inflow of foreign currency into the country.
The final rites of the family of 3 who died in the tragic building collapse in Boovalikada were performed this afternoon at the General Cemetery in Mahayava amidst crowds of mourning relatives and friends. In the meantime, the National Building Research Organisation District Officer in charge of the Kandy district, Samantha Bogahapitiya, says that an investigative team is currently inspecting the materials used in constructing the collapsed building.
The remains of Chamila Prasad, his wife Achala Ekanaika and their 1.5-month-old daughter who were killed in the tragic building collapse in Boovalikada last Sunday were brought to the Mahayava General Cemetery in Katukastota to perform their final rites. In the meantime, an investigation team from the National Building Research Organisation inspected the collapsed house and the land today.
මේ ගොඩනැගිල්ල හදලා තියෙන ද්‍රව්‍ය වල තියෙන ශක්තිමත්කම සම්බන්ධයෙන් පරීක්ෂා කිරීමේ අවශ්‍යතාවයක් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ කටයුතු ටික තමයි අද ඔය සිදු කරගෙන යන්නේ. මේ පරීක්ෂණ කටයුතුත් එක්ක තවදුරටත් අපිට අවශ්‍ය කරන තොරතුරු ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන් මෙහි මේ සිද්ධ වෙච්ච අස්ථාවරත්වයට හේතු සාධක වෙච්ච කාරණා සම්බන්ධයෙන්. අමුද්‍රව්‍ය ඒ අවශ්‍ය ස්ථානවලින් ගැනීමක් කරනවා. ඉතින් ඒ අරගෙන ඊට පස්සේ ඒවා පරීක්ෂණාගාර වලට ගෙනියන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම ගෙනිලා තමයි පරීක්ෂා කිරීම කරන්නේ.
In another development, the committee appointed by the governor of the Central Province, Lalit U. Gamage, to investigate and submit a report on unauthorized buildings in Kandy met today at the Department of Engineering Services in the Central Province. Accordingly, the report is to be submitted to the governor tomorrow.
We'll return after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
Welcome back in business news. The old share price index closed in the red as a result of price losses in a number of counters. A similar behavior was witnessed in the S&P SL20 as the index closed 1.73 points down at 2,490.62. Foreign participation in the market remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers. Here's a brief report on the market performance today.
Today's stock market witnessed a cool-off, disrupting the winning streak we witnessed for more than 2 weeks, driving the market down the negative direction. An index mainly experiencing a gradual downtrend till midday and thereafter bounced back and closed at 5,772 with a dip of 9 points. And today mainly the capital goods sector and the banking sector led the turnover, contributing 42%, while the parcel trades amounted 8% of totals. However, foreign investors continue to be on the selling side with low participation.
With that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining. I'm Shanella Fernando. Have a good night.